First contact folly. The Kelveri scout ship inevitable dominance decelerated as it entered Earth's atmosphere, the advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to the primitive detection systems of the planet below. Commander Zex Toril stood on the observation deck, his 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the blue world with unconcealed contempt. This is the planet the Council believes warrants special attention. He scoffed, mandibles clicking in disdain. It's mostly water. How threatening could it possibly be? Science Officer Miraval approached with a data tablet. Unlike her commander, her expression reflected careful consideration rather than immediate dismissal. The biosphere readings are unlike anything in our databases, Commander. The biodiversity alone. Biodiversity is not synonymous with threat, Science Officer. Zex interrupted, waving one of his upper limbs dismissively. Show me their apex predators, the ones the preliminary scouts were so concerned about. Mira activated the holographic display. Images of various Earth predators appeared. Lions, tigers, bears, wolves, great white sharks, and crocodiles. Zex laughed, the sound resembling metal grinding against stone. These are their feared hunters. The largest is barely twice the size of our juveniles. Our standard exosuits could withstand an attack from any of these creatures. There's more, sir, Mira insisted, changing the display to show humans in various settings. The dominant species. They call themselves humans. They appear physically unimpressive, but have developed sophisticated technology and complex social structures. Bipedal mammals with no natural armor, minimal muscle density compared to our warriors, and dull sensory capabilities. Zex noted, unimpressed. Yet they've achieved crude spaceflight. Interesting, but hardly concerning. Tactical Officer Dravkor joined them, his battle-scarred exoskeleton reflecting his veteran status. Commander, requesting permission to lead a ground reconnaissance team. I want to evaluate these creatures firsthand. Granted, Zex replied. Take a standard expedition unit. Focus on assessing their predatory capabilities, both the wildlife and these humans. The Council's concerns are almost certainly exaggerated, but we must be thorough. 12 hours later, the Kelveri expedition team. 5 warriors, including Dravkor, descended into the heart of Earth's Amazon rainforest. Their exosuits, designed to withstand extreme planetary conditions and hostile native life, provided environmental protection and combat capabilities far beyond anything Earth's military powers possessed. Thermal signatures everywhere, reported Kelveri Scout Tev, his sensor array scanning the dense jungle. This place teems with life. Most of it small and innocuous. Trav observed, casually brushing aside a wandering tarantula with a metal-encased limb. Nothing that could possibly challenge us. The expedition moved through the rainforest with practiced efficiency, cataloging species and evaluating threats. They observed jaguars hunting, anacondas constricting prey, and poisonous frogs that could kill with a touch. Yet nothing they encountered posed any meaningful danger to their advanced technology. This is disappointing, Drav remarked as they approached a clearing. The preliminary scouts must have been newly hatched to consider this planet a threat. Even their largest predators are manageable. As they entered the clearing, their sensors detected a small human encampment. 5 humans, researchers studying the rainforest, were setting up equipment and collecting samples. Perfect, Drav said. Let's observe these supposed apex predators. The Kelveri team activated their optical camouflage and moved closer, watching as the humans worked. The aliens noted the humans' apparent frailty, their need for protective clothing against minor environmental hazards, and their reliance on tools for even simple tasks. Pathetic, one of the scouts whispered. They can't even detect our presence with their primitive senses. Just then, one of the humans, an older male with white facial hair, suddenly stopped and looked directly toward their position. Hello, the human called out. Is someone there? The Kelveri warriors froze, their camouflage technology theoretically perfect. Professor Wilson, what is it? Another human asked. Not sure, the older human replied, still staring at the invisible aliens. Probably nothing, but something feels off. The birds stopped singing. Drav signaled his team to retreat slightly, impressed despite himself. The human had sensed something amiss through environmental cues, despite having no technological assistance. As the day progressed, the Kelveri continued observing, increasingly puzzled by the human's behavior. Despite their physical limitations, the researchers demonstrated remarkable adaptability and problem-solving abilities. When a sudden torrential downpour threatened their camp, they rapidly implemented solutions that protected both themselves and their equipment. Interesting cooperation patterns. Mira noted via comlink from the ship. They compensate for individual weaknesses through teamwork. Still not a threat, Drav replied. I've seen enough. We'll return, Toh. His statement was cut short by a startled cry from one of his scouts. The warrior had moved too close to the edge of a riverbank, and the seemingly solid ground had given way. The Kelveri warrior plunged into the water below, the sudden immersion causing a momentary surge in his exosuit that disrupted his camouflage. For a brief moment, the alien was visible to the human researchers. What the hell is that? One of the humans shouted, pointing. The camouflage re-engaged almost instantly, but the damage was done. The humans had seen them. Extraction, now, Drav ordered, but as his team attempted to retreat, disaster struck. The fallen scout's systems had been compromised by water damage, and his suit emitted a high-pitched whine as emergency protocols engaged. The noise attracted attention from the river. A massive green form lunged from the water, powerful jaws clamping down on the struggling Kelveri warrior. An enormous crocodile, larger than any they had cataloged, had caught the alien in its legendary death roll. Impossible, Drav exclaimed, watching in horror as the crocodile's primitive but powerful jaws found a weakness in the scout's exosuit. The advanced armor, designed to withstand plasma weapons and atmospheric re-entry, was being crushed by the sheer mechanical force of the reptile's bite. Drav activated his weapon systems and fired, killing the crocodile instantly, but not before it had fatally damaged the scout's suit. As they rushed to their comrade, the remaining team found themselves surrounded by human researchers who had followed the commotion. Hold it right there, one of the humans said, holding what the aliens recognized as a primitive projectile weapon. We know you're there. Show yourselves. Drav assessed the situation rapidly. Their mission was compromised, but the humans posed no real threat with their simple weapons. He decided to reveal himself, deactivating his camouflage. The humans gasped, but surprisingly did not flee. The oldest among them stepped forward. We mean you no harm, he said slowly, hands raised. We are scientists, not warriors. Your primitive weapons suggest otherwise, Drav replied, his translation system converting his clicks and whistles into approximate human speech. Professor Wilson's eyes widened at the communication. Self-defense only. This jungle has many dangers. As you've just witnessed. Drav's inner eyelids flickered, the Kelveri equivalent of a frown. The human was right. Despite all their technology, they had lost a warrior to a primitive reptile because they had underestimated its capabilities. We will retrieve our fallen and leave, Drav stated. Your friend is hurt, Wilson said, gesturing to the damaged suit where toxic Earth atmosphere was seeping in. We might be able to help. Why would you assist potential invaders? Drav asked, genuinely curious. Wilson's expression remained calm. Because that's what humans do. We help when we can, and we learn about potential threats before deciding whether they're enemies. As Drav considered this unexpected offer, distant thunder rumbled. A storm was approaching, but Drav realized it wasn't atmospheric disturbance. The sound came from above, reinforcement ships entering the atmosphere. Commander Zex has launched the invasion force, one of his scouts reported quietly. The humans couldn't hear the communication, but they noticed the aliens' attention shift skyward. More of you coming? Wilson asked. Friends or trouble? Drav made a decision that would change the fate of two species. Trouble, he said, for all of us. The humans exchanged glances, and Drav saw something shift in their expressions. Not fear, but determination. In that moment, he realized that the preliminary scouts had been right. The real apex predators of Earth weren't the creatures with claws and fangs. They were the adaptable, tool-using, problem-solving primates who had conquered every environment on their planet not through physical dominance, but through something far more dangerous: intelligence, cooperation, and relentless innovation. And the Kelveri had just declared war on them. The hunt begins. The Kelveri invasion fleet darkened the skies over major Earth cities, their massive ships hovering like technological thunderclouds. Commander Zex Toril watched the panicked human responses from the bridge of the inevitable dominance, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. "See how they scatter," he remarked to his officers, "like prey animals sensing a predator." Miraval, now promoted to senior science officer after her accurate preliminary assessments, studied the data feeds with concern. "Commander, I'm detecting organized resistance forming. Their military responses are more coordinated than anticipated. Primitive projectile weapons and crude explosives," Zex dismissed. "They cannot penetrate our shields." On the view screen, footage showed human military forces mobilizing worldwide. Tanks, aircraft, and missile systems converging on Kelveri landing zones. The first exchanges had gone as expected. Human conventional weapons proved largely ineffective against Kelveri technology. What troubled Mira was not the expected military response, but the puzzling patterns emerging elsewhere. Civilian populations weren't simply fleeing, they were organizing. Manufacturing facilities were rapidly retooling. Information networks buzzed with encrypted communications that Kelveri codebreakers struggled to decipher. "Commander, receiving transmission from Tactical Officer Drav Kor," a communications officer announced. Zex straightened. "Our Amazon reconnaissance team. They should have returned hours ago." Drav's voice came through with static interference. "Commander, requesting immediate extraction. Situation compromised. The humans are not as they appear." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Location," Zex demanded. Signal originated from the Amazon basin, but terminated unexpectedly, the communications officer reported, unable to reestablish contact. Zex's inner eyelids narrowed. "Send a retrieval team. Full combat configuration." The retrieval team never returned. 3 days into the invasion, what had begun as a straightforward conquest was evolving into something unexpected. Reports from ground forces described bewildering encounters. Kelveri warriors found their technology failing in unpredictable ways. Environmental hazards claimed troops where human defenders couldn't reach. Most concerning were the sporadic but devastating ambushes by humans who seemed to materialize from nowhere, strike with surprising effectiveness, and disappear again. "They're adapting to our tactics," Mira reported during an emergency council, "learning our vulnerabilities with each engagement." "Impossible," Zex insisted. "Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Technology isn't everything," came a voice from the doorway. Drav Kor limped into the council chamber, his exosuit damaged and hastily repaired. One arm was missing entirely. "You survived," Zex said, mandibles twitching in surprise. "No thanks to our intelligence about this planet," Drav replied bitterly. "The humans captured me after the incident in the rainforest. I escaped during transport, but not before learning some troubling information." He activated his remaining data systems, projecting images that shocked the assembled officers. Humans working alongside Earth's wildlife. Trained wolves scouting for human resistance fighters. Birds being used as reconnaissance, even insects deployed to infiltrate Kelveri systems. "The humans call themselves apex predators for a reason," Drav explained. "Not because they're the strongest or fastest, but because they've mastered their entire ecosystem. They don't just use tools, they form alliances with other species." Mira nodded slowly. "Symbiosis," Their evolutionary path favored cooperation over physical dominance. A tactical officer interrupted with an urgent report. "Commander, our Northern Hemisphere forward base has gone dark. All 200 warriors, unaccounted for." "How?" Zex demanded. "What weapon could possibly—" "Not a weapon," Drav interrupted. "At least, not in the way we understand them." He displayed final footage from the base, showing Kelveri warriors collapsing inexplicably, their exosuits intact, but the aliens inside dying rapidly. "Biological warfare," Mira whispered, horrified. "They've engineered a pathogen specifically targeting our biology." "Impossible," Zex protested. "They couldn't possibly understand our physiology well enough in such a short time." "They didn't have to," Drav countered. "While I was captured, they extracted biological samples. The humans who held me, they weren't soldiers. They were scientists. They work as quickly as they fight." Across Earth, the pattern was becoming clear. The humans weren't trying to match Kelveri technology. They were circumventing it entirely, using their intimate knowledge of their own planet as a weapon. In the oceans, whales disrupted Kelveri sonar systems. In forests, engineered plant toxins corroded alien metals. In cities, electromagnetic pulses, crude but effective, disabled Kelveri communications. Most impressive was their adaptation speed. Within a week, humans had reverse-engineered components from downed Kelveri ships and developed countermeasures that hadn't existed when the invasion began. 2 weeks into what was supposed to be a simple conquest, Zex faced the unthinkable: a strategic withdrawal. The Kelveri had lost nearly 30% of their invasion force, not primarily to human weapons, but to a complex interplay of biological hazards, environmental traps, and rapidly evolving human tactics. "The Council must be informed," Mira insisted during a tense command meeting. "This planet is not simply another conquest. It's a uniquely dangerous ecosystem with a dominant species that functions as its immune system. Withdrawal would be unprecedented," Zex argued, though his confidence had visibly eroded. "So does losing to a pre-galactic civilization," Drav countered. "But that's precisely what's happening." The final decision came after a coordinated human counterattack on the Kelveri's main landing zone. What the aliens had established as an impregnable fortress was compromised not by a frontal assault, but by a bewildering combination of tactics no Kelveri strategist could have predicted. First came the insects, billions of them, overwhelming air filtration systems. Then modified plants that grew exponentially when exposed to Kelveri energy emissions. Human hackers who had impossibly broken Kelveri encryption. And finally, human special forces who moved like shadows, fought like demons, and displayed a determination that left the aliens stunned. Standing on the bridge of the retreating flagship, Zex watched Earth recede on the view screens. "How?" he asked quietly, his former arrogance replaced by genuine bewilderment. "How did we miscalculate so drastically?" Mira, now his most trusted advisor after her predictions proved accurate, considered carefully before answering. "We measured them by their claws, not their minds. We classified them as primitive because their technology resembled our distant past. But we failed to recognize what truly makes them apex predators." "Which is?" Zex prompted. "They never stop adapting. Where other species reach evolutionary stability, humans continuously reinvent themselves. They don't just use their environment. They reshape it. They don't just fight enemies. They study them, understand them, and then transform that knowledge into victory." Drav, who had experienced human resourcefulness firsthand, added, "And they protect their world with a ferocity we've never encountered. Not just their own species, but everything they consider theirs." As the Kelveri fleet accelerated toward deep space, Zex made an unprecedented recommendation to the Galactic Council. Earth would be designated a prohibited zone, too dangerous for standard colonization. Not because of its wildlife or natural hazards, but because of the unassuming bipedal primates who had proven themselves to be the most formidable apex predators the Kelveri had ever encountered. In the decades that followed, Earth's status in galactic databases was updated with a simple but telling designation: protected ecosystem harboring evolutionarily unique apex predators. Approach with extreme caution. Direct contact discouraged. And underneath, in smaller notation, primary hazard: humans. The true apex predators of Earth weren't the creatures with the sharpest teeth or strongest claws. They were the ones who had learned to use every tooth and claw on the planet as extensions of their own will. The species that had climbed from caves to stars not through physical dominance, but through an unmatched capacity for adaptation, cooperation, and the relentless drive to overcome any challenge they faced. The humans had not merely survived the Kelveri invasion. They had taught the galaxy a profound lesson about what truly makes an apex predator.